You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. Today's guest is Rob Steffens, co-founder of Avv-u-LAIR-uh. Did I say that right?
There you got it.
All right. MyLodgeTax, the leading provider of tax compliance solutions for the vacation rental industry. MyLodgeTax was founded by vacation rental owners, including Rob, so that they can know how much time and energy goes into maintaining a vacation rental. And the added stress of lodging tax compliance can be overwhelming. Rob and his team of experts serve homeowners, property managers, hotel operators, and other businesses, helping them stay compliant so they can get back to doing what they love. Okay. And so Rob, tell them what I didn't tell them. And let's talk about your, how you got into it and you do this, right? This is not just your company. You are a vacation and a in the business where you actually do this stuff and are receiving revenue from renting out properties. So
absolutely, I'll give you the kind of the backstory to how I got started in this. So I live in Denver, Colorado, lifelong skier. Like a lot of us here on the Front Range of the Rockies, if you're a skier, owning mountain property up in the ski resorts is a goal for all of us. So as a somewhat young professional, was fortunate enough to have the opportunity with a friend to purchase a condo in Vail. And I think like most people, I couldn't afford to own a second home without making income on it. I couldn't just have that home and pay for it myself. So like a lot of people, we put it in the short-term rental market as a way to generate income. It's a great thing to do. And at the time, this is 20 years ago now. Typically what you used to do back then is give it to a property manager, but in Colorado, they take 50% of your gross rental. So that's a lot.
That's a lot.
So I said, man, maybe there's got to be a better way to do this. Somebody told us about this little website called VRBO. We listed it on VRBO. Worked great. We got tons of bookings. We basically, through that listing, which was a $120 a year subscription, very affordable, no big management fee, no percentage of revenue, we're able to keep our property pretty booked and basically pay for it. So then we have a property and we have an asset that's increasing in value, and we have a place that we can go visit. So that's a very, I think, common, short-term rental or vacation rental story. People buy these properties. It's it's a mix sometimes of a lifestyle decision and also an investment. And it was the same for both of us. But when we got into it, we realized, when we're managing it on ourselves, because we don't want to pay a 50% commission, there's things we had to talk to the guests, book the guests, get the guest keys, get them checked in, have a cleaning service, deal with contracts, collect money like credit card payments. And then one of the other things was we had to collect and remit sales and lodging taxes on the rent we collected. So there was a lot of, kind of additional work there. And one of the more complex ones was this sales and lodging tax. And I'm a CPA in my background, so is my wife. And we kind of came across it and we're like, wow, this is not going to be easy for a lot of people. So it was really through that experience of one, frankly, pretty successfully renting our property on the internet, which was, kind of a new thing 20 years ago. So I'm old. That's one thing. Two, and then the complexity of the tax, we said, people are really going to miss this. So we said, boy, this is really easy to do. We think a lot of people are going to start doing this on the internet, but a lot of people are going to struggle with the tax fee. So we started a business to really build an online, think of it kind of like TurboTax, but it's a very simple online solution that for people that are involved in short-term rentals, we're an easy way for them to, charge the correct taxes, make sure the taxes are being paid to the correct agencies on the correct dates. And we manage all that complexity and all that paperwork. We basically do all the lodging taxes for our customers.
Oh, I love that. So tell me, what's the importance of understanding your local lodging tax and regulatory requirements? Why is that major?
Well, I'd say when I started 20 years ago, this was kind of a niche thing. And I think in the last 5 years or so, Curtis, it's become mainstream. I mean, Airbnb, I think, is now ubiquitous. There's Airbnbs in every city. So it's become a very popular thing. And that's getting the focus of, city tax collectors, state tax agents. So if you are involved in short-term renting now, I think the tax has become a big issue. And there's a liability issue for you, and it's not a huge thing if you're on top of it. I mean, you have to typically charge your guests another 10 or 12%, whatever the tax rate is for your home.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing it, the city or the state can come contact you someday and say, well, we can assess 3 to 5 years of back taxes plus penalties and interest, which can quickly be, thousands and thousands of dollars a year. We routinely see customers that maybe haven't been doing this. They get called out by a city or a state, and all of a sudden they've got a, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 tax bill that if you charge the tax, the whole time, the guest pays the tax. I mean, it's you charge your guest rent plus tax. They're happy to pay it. They understand there's taxes on these types of hotel rooms, short-term rentals.
Right.
So if you just collect and remit it the whole time, you can just keep yourself out of a lot of trouble. So there's some financial exposure if you're not doing it correctly. And then in this environment, there's more regulations. And if you're collecting and remitting your taxes, and cities are looking to kind of enforce or adopt new regulations, people that have been on the tax rolls, registered, doing the correct thing, paying the taxes, often get grandfathered in when there's strict rules, or they get more favorable treatment, or it's just just protects their property rights. If there is a significant kind of policy that may limit or curtail people's ability to rent. So it's just like all businesses, when you start your business, you got to be, once you get going, bring some revenue and income in, you got to be on top of the taxes, and otherwise, some bad things can happen, and vacation rentals are no different.
Yeah. I mean, it's I call the tax agencies the dragon. You have to feed the dragon. You don't want to wake the dragon. Okay. And
right.
by giving them and just automate it, because most of the times your job is to collect it from the user. So if you ever go to, I remember we were in Savannah one time, and we had the hotel tax fee, you got resort fees. They're just collecting it, and so they just built it into their process. And it looks like what you do is help people do that. So that's fantastic.
Exactly, and that's exactly right. That the traveler pays the tax for those of your audience that are involved in short-term rentals or looking to get involved in short-term rentals. That's exactly right. Once you're set up, all you need to do is collect the tax, and then it's remitted. In most states, it goes to a couple different agencies, but that's handling all that and those payments correctly is really where we step in and take care of that for people. And you talked about the dragon. That's right. If you're doing this proactively and collecting and paying the tax, the dragon is asleep and he's not a problem. It's when you're not on top of it and time passes is where you can run into problems.
Rob, can you tell them the 7 differences or the difference between income taxes and lodging taxes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we get this a lot from our customers because, most of our customers are just people. They don't think of themselves as businesses. They're just renting either their primary home, or they bought a home or a condo in a resort area they like to visit, or maybe they made an investment to buy a second home. It's more of an investment property. So, people just instinctively think, I'm just renting my home, and the average person has never had to deal with sales and lodging taxes before. So when you talk about income taxes versus sales taxes, the rank and file person is very familiar with income taxes, right? We have to do it once a year. We have to file with the IRS. Most of us have to file some sort of income tax filing with the state. So everyone's used to that. And so a lot of our customers, when they get involved in short-term rentals, they immediately think, oh, taxes, that's my income taxes. Well, it's not. An income tax, that's a tax on your net income. So, if you're an individual, right, it's your gross earnings less whatever deductions. If you're a business, it's your revenue less all the expenses you can deduct. And then you get to a net profit or net income line. And that's the amount you have to pay income tax on. Very different process than lodging tax. Lodging tax is a transactional tax. It's charged as a percentage of the rent. There's no deductions. If you charge a guest $1,000 for a weekend in rent, you have to charge a 10 or 12% tax on top of that. Again, no deductions. And unlike income taxes, these taxes are due typically monthly, sometimes quarterly, and they're paid to city and state governments. Whereas income tax, that's an annual filing with the IRS or probably your state government, whatever state you're located in. So again, very different. One's income tax tax on your profits. One's really a gross receipts, tax on your rent, tax on the transaction, and sales tax is paid every month. Income tax is once a year filing. So actually, the sales and lodging taxes can become much more kind of burdensome because there's this kind of monthly requirement of remitting this paperwork and filing to different agencies.
Yeah, that's a big difference. I think compliance is easy if you can get on top of it and systematize it. Can you speak to your experience as a, and is it a good thing? This is outside of our scope, but I'll just throw it out there of looking at vacation or short-term rentals as a niche market. How you enjoyed that. You think that's a good opportunity for people to be considered?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm asked that question a lot. And as we've talked about, it's become really popular. 20 years ago, I don't think it was that well known. But I personally, I've been doing this for 20 years, and for really all that time, I've been managing my own property. And some people are very intimidated by that. They'll be like, "Well, gee, what happens when a pipe breaks in the middle of the night?" And my response to that is, "Well, what happens when a pipe breaks in the middle of the night of your house?"
Right.
You call a plumber. I mean,
right.
There's not a lot of recourse. You do have to get the service provider involved. But I've had a really good experience, and sometimes people are concerned about their guests and property damage. And that really, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. I think I've had one, bad experience, and that's probably out of hundreds of guests. And it was, probably pretty predictable when I reflect back on it. And it was, the bad experience was, a guest that wasn't as respectful as they should be and did some damage. But you're talking about probably, $300 to $500 worth of damage, which they paid for. But out of hundreds of guests, that's few and far between. So what I tell people is generally you're dealing with families, groups, a more affluent traveler. Vacation rentals, are generally not inexpensive. People are generally renting condos or homes that are multiple rooms or thousands of dollars a week. Mm-hmm. So people are generally very respectful. So I've actually had a very positive experience. I encourage people to do it. At least in terms of the self-managing, if you got the time and it's something you think you want to take on, it's getting easier to do. Airbnb and VRBO, the big platforms, are making it, they're providing more tools and software in their systems to make it easier. Most transactions now are booked online automatically. When I started this 20 years ago, you had to, talk to people over the phone and mail checks, and, there were more complicated steps involved. So, it may be a lot easier than people think. Guests are actually generally nice people and very respectful and understanding of any property. Like I did have a water heater fail one time with a guest in the unit, but they were actually unbelievably understanding, and we got it fixed within a day or so, and everything is fine. But there's going to be maybe a lot fewer issues than people think, and it can be again a great way to get your foothold in a market that you like to visit, like to go to, but also, get a hold of an asset, build some value while you let your guests, pay for your cost of ownership.
Yeah, I like that. We sometimes we'll talk about with our clients, we call a 401k condo, right? Mm-hmm. And, you lose. So instead of putting money into this account you can't touch for 30 years, how about you enjoy your life today and build an asset and cash flow at the same time. So, it has utility value. Inflation will drive it up. And, hey, you get to go skiing or wherever your place is. So I like that idea. I tell people, Curtis is not the party pooper. I want you to have fun. I don't believe in deferred life.
Indeed.
So
indeed, and we have a lot of customers that have done that they started as, I like to vacation here. Maybe I want to retire. I want to buy a condo or a property here. Mm-hmm. And they start with one and have some decent success. And then they get a little more serious about it. So, this is going to be kind of an investment thesis now. I'm going to add some more. So we do have customers that, a lot of customers that they have that one, but there's many that get one and it works really well, and they start to add a second or a third. I mean, then maybe they look at a different market. So yeah, it just depends on the person in the market, but there are definitely opportunities out there.
Yeah. I mean, don't be afraid if you like it. I mean, now with the web and the tools, it gets simpler and simpler. Rob's company can even help you, you have some maybe a few tips on helping short-term rental hosts stay compliant with lodging taxes.
Yeah, I mean, my number one tip is just, if you're involved in short-term rentals, educate yourself on the rules. Don't let it fester. I think a lot of people intend to get on top of these taxes, but sometimes, they get busy. It's sometimes not easy, or you call the city or the state. It's not always easy to get through to somebody to get information, but, be diligent, get on top of it. Because again, if you're out in front of it and you're doing things correctly, you're not going to have any problems. It's if you let things fester and you're not compliant is where you get into problems. So my advice is, check with your city, county, and state. Unfortunately, there's multiple layers of these taxes for sales and lodging taxes. Do internet research for these taxes, but also follow up with phone calls. Oftentimes, you'll get somebody that can be really helpful. But again, these are somewhat complex requirements. Certainly, for people that don't want to deal with these, our service is a $20 a month subscription. Pretty affordable for most people generating, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year in rent, and we're going to handle all the paperwork and tax filing for them. So, we're an option, but if people, are the do-it-yourself type, just, do the research and get on top of it, before you start renting the property.
Yeah, at what he just said, I don't know why in the world you would be a do-it-yourself person. So, tell them about your company, My Tax Lives.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked about. I got involved in the industry 20 years ago through my own property, and our whole model is to take this kind of confusing pain point and just take it away from people, do it for people. And so that means, wherever your property is located in the U.S., we're going to tell you exactly what the tax rate you need to charge your guests. We're going to register you and fill out whatever forms need to be completed with city, county, or state agencies. And then once you're all set up, these taxes due each month or sometimes quarterly, we're gonna file and pay the taxes each month for you. This is all done online. At the end of the month, we remind you to tell us, log into your account, tell us what your rent was for the month. And then based on that, we're going to file and pay the taxes. Everything's done. It's automated. The money's moved electronically. So once you're set up, it should take you, a minute or less a month to tell us what your rent was for a property, and we're going to file and pay the taxes. So we, tell you the rate, we do all the forms, we file and remit the taxes each month. And if there's any issues, correspondence, audit inquiries, notifications, we deal with that as well. So we try to really serve our customer and really, keep all this complicated and sometimes risky, tax requirements, keep them out of it. We handle it for them, and they can really focus on enjoying their property or booking that guest or providing that good guest experience. But our model is to really try to handle the whole tax process from beginning to end.
I don't understand why somebody would not do that. Okay. And I mean, that's very compelling. And Rob, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, we're a website, internet company. This is all done in the cloud. So our website's the best place to, there's contact information, or you can learn more about our solutions. And that's our website, www.MyLodgeTax.com.
Perfect. So we're going to make sure we're going to have all of that in the show notes so that you can, so if you're listening to this and you're somewhere where you do this will make your life easier, and we're all about, I want you to help create a frictionless life. Okay. So you can, live a lifestyle. So we want you to build wealth. Here's another niche where you can build cash flow and wealth and enjoy your life. So this is another way to do that. I know I have a few. I can think of 3 people I have right now that have that are clients of mine and friends of mine that have this. That I'm going to send my link to this show. So when the show goes live. Rob, any closing thoughts or words of wisdom you have for our listeners out there?
I would just say and we touched on this a little bit, I was very nervous and intimidated about, buying my first property. It was a big step in the self-management, and boy, what if I don't get the income that I need, and, am I going to be able to come out of pocket? But it really worked out, much better than expected. With the short-term rental. And like a lot of things, I think, take action. And that's when I reflect back. I just kind of took the plunge, which seemed like a plunge at the time. After doing it for a year or two, it became no big deal and very predictable. But it's taking action, taking that first step really to do anything, whether that's investment or new job or whatever. But I would just encourage, certainly in the short-term rental space, it's getting easier and maybe less, less hassle and less, less scary than people may think.
Yeah, I think that folks, you got to jump in and take the plunge and get out there and explore. If you go somewhere and you see, if you're traveling, you're looking at property if you're an investor. So you can make all your trips deductible and you actually own something there. It's like, hey, you can go back, and, give yourself 2 or 3 weeks and make money off it the rest of the year. And so I think that is phenomenal. Guys, I think that this was a great episode. I want you to take action if you're doing this, you cannot beat that. Go to that site, save yourself some headache, and stay compliant. Feed the dragon, as I always say, right?
Indeed.
So Rob, listen, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Practical Wealth Show. I think you dropped some serious knowledge bombs on them.
Well, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, me too. So, hey, guys, so here's another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. And folks, go out there and have a prosperous day.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.